Hi, Els, and welcome to a year-end list. This is the first one that we're doing for horror movies on this channel, but we thought we saw so many great horror films this year that we would try and tackle it. So my name's Jared, that's Linda as always, and so we're going to break down a few of our favorite films from this year, specifically in the horror genre. So this list, I feel like it's important to note, is going to be in no particular order, and also we're not giving a definitive ranking. We're simply just kind of sharing with you some of our favorite movie experiences from this entire year. I wanted to start with a movie that hasn't had much discussion around it because it came out way early in the year, and that movie is Happy Death Day to You.
Oh, hey, you're up. I wasn't sure if you wanted to sleep in or not, so. Treat?
Way.
So Happy Death Day to You was a really unique experience in the fact that it took a slasher comedy, the original, and for the sequel, it turned it on its head into like this sci-fi adventure film. And it was really interesting, and the execution I thought was really on point. I think I liked the movie quite a bit more than you did. However, I haven't watched it for a second time, but in my mind, when I think about this movie, it only grows on me.
You want to watch it a second time.
Have you watched it a second time?
Oh, no.
No.
Like, I have time to watch movies a second time these days.
I know, I do not either. But Happy Death Day to You is just a really enjoyable experience. If you like the first one and missed this one, I do recommend going out to see it, it's not in theaters right now, so you can't necessarily go out to see it, but if you wanted to rent it on home video, I think it's definitely a film that you can just throw on in the background with your friends as you're having like game night. If you're doing some, Friendmas, you can throw on some spooky movies, Black Christmas, not the remake.
Which one? Oh, that was such a... So, my first choice would probably have to be The Lighthouse. Oh my gosh. The Lighthouse was definitely just a very nightmare atmosphere horror movie, and I've said that multiple times, but it still reigns true.
Dance, Winslow!
I have newfound respect for Robert Pattinson from it. And Willem Dafoe, of course, always gave his best performance in that one. It was just so dark, and it was definitely not what I was expecting from that movie. And I got so much more from that movie than I actually expected. It made me so uncomfortable at the end, but in a weird way, I really loved it.
Willem Dafoe, I'm really upset that the studio is not running him as a co-lead actor for their Oscar campaign. They're running him as a supporting role. And I feel like that's not what that movie is. That is a co-led movie. That is not, they're both the main character.
There's only the two of them, plus background characters that don't move, don't say anything, that you forget are even there. I still forget that there were other people in that movie besides those two. Mm-hmm. If there's gonna be any type of nomination for the film, they should be sharing the same supporting role, main role in that movie, because those two were it.
It has a nightmare-esque quality to it, which Robert Eggers, the director, is known for now in his films, I guess. So I can't wait to see, The Northman? Or I think it's The Northman, I think is the name of his next project that he will be filming, I believe, in 2020. So more to come from that director, and I think there are a couple of people that he's previously worked with attached to that film, including Willem Dafoe and Anya Taylor-Joy. Is that how you say? Is that how you say her name?
No,
okay.
I know her from The Witch.
Yes. Yep. So he's bringing back a couple of the actors that he's previously worked for. So I can't wait to see The Northman. The Lighthouse is great. So the next film on our list, which we both kind of sat down and chose, was Midsummer.
How long have you two been together?
Just over 3.5 years.
4 years.
Really?
Yeah.
What do you think?
It's like another world.
Midsommar is directed by Ari Aster, and it stars Florence Pugh and Will Poulter and a couple of other people that I should know their names, but we're not doing this scripted. So Midsommar is it's a festive nightmare, is what it is. And so you have use of very vibrant, bright colors in this kind of horror landscape and this kind of cultish vibe to the whole thing. And it really adds to the viewing experience when you're in the theater, because normally, like when you're watching a horror film, you know, it's dark. We just got done talking about The Lighthouse. It's dark, it's dreary, you know, there's a lot of shadow play, chiaroscuro, and in this, there is hardly any of that. A couple of the opening scenes at the beginning are pretty dark, but after that point, it takes place in the daylight, 100%, which is something that I haven't really seen before in a horror movie like this, and so it just adds to that kind of feverish dream that this movie kind of has. It doesn't feel real. It doesn't feel like it's in reality at all.
It's very contradicting, the setting with what's going on, like the setting with the plot, because like you said, the setting, very bright during the daytime. It's in the middle of a festival, so there's flowers and it looks like fun and happy, and then there's all this super messed up stuff going on. Oh my gosh, when we watched the movie with you on your birthday, Lane and I just went, oh my God.
Yeah.
It was just, oh my gosh, it was so messed up. And it wasn't something you would expect from the setting that it took place in.
Yeah.
And I think the way that they started the movie was a good way to like send it off down that path too, without spoiling anything. Like the beginning of it just kind of paved that way for them, because then it only gets so much worse from there. It gets brighter and brighter and brighter, but everything keeps getting more and more messed up.
Yeah.
And it was a lot to take in.
And also, it's a pretty hellish breakup movie, so there's that. If that's your type of thing, this movie is definitely a breakup movie, and it's super funny too, which I wasn't expecting. So,
oh my God.
Go into this movie knowing as little as possible. You will be greatly rewarded.
So the next one on our list will be It Chapter 2.
Your hair is winter fire, January embers. My heart burns there too.
It Chapter 2 brought on a lot of contradiction, I want to say. Just because it's very split down the middle. Some people really didn't like it. Some people really did like it once it came out in theaters and all that stuff. But I did, in the end, really end up liking it. Like, I had been waiting for the sequel for so long. It would have been really hard to ruin it for me. Like, this was my movie this year. And I did really like what they did with it. They did try to stick to the book as closely as possible. There were, of course, a lot of things that they left out, a lot of things they did differently, as you would expect from movies that are from a book, which, you know, I came to accept that from the beginning. But I don't think I've ever watched a movie with as perfect of casting. That will always be my favorite part of the movie, is the casting. I'm in love with James McAvoy. I love Jessica Chastain. I loved Bill Hader in it. I'm pretty sure I misspelled his name, or mispronounced his name, but it's fine. But oh my God, I just loved it. Like the scenes in it, just going back to the childhood, going back to everything that was happening in It Chapter 1, and just kind of wrapping it up in the second part of it. It was just, I loved it so much. I did.
And I liked it considerably more than It Chapter 1, which I think a lot of people were surprised by. I don't know if you're surprised by that, but like, I don't know, for whatever reason.
I'm not. You always try to contradict.
I don't try and contradict anything. I don't, no. I mean, I am the Last Jedi stan, so there you go. There's that. No, I think you hit it, you know, right on the head. The casting here is perfect, and it is everything. The child actors,
it's the movie,
and having the intercuts between the child actors coming back, you know, to film additional scenes for this movie, and then, you know, contrasting that with the adult cast, like, it is seamless and it is perfection.
Just watching that extra growth, I wasn't completely expecting that, them, like, doing extra scenes like that with the child actors.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just an extra treat for me to just watch that and to watch them grow even more, because that was my favorite part of It Chapter 1, was watching the kids grow together despite everything that's happening. So that was even more pleasant to watch.
We're now getting down to the end of the list, so my third and final pick is actually going to be Jordan Peele's Us from this year.
The Shadow hated the girl so much for so long.
This was kind of like you had said earlier with It Chapter 2. This was my movie that I was excited for, and I believe it came out in March, so it came out earlier in the year. A lot of my picks are from way early on this year. And it's one of those movies that kind of subverts your expectations. It has that Peele twist at the end, much like Get Out did. But I think Michael Abel's score is the standout thing from this film. The way that, I Got 5 on It's kind of mixed into the score and the soundtrack,
Mm-hmm.
and what they do with music in the film is really, really interesting. And it's one of those films that you have like an effective response to the music. And to what's going on on the screen, and it's a very different film from Get Out, but it still has those ticks that you might recognize from Jordan Peele's directorial debut. And by the way, side note, Lupita Nyong'o in this film is incredible, and she gets one of the best performances of this year. So here's to hoping that she gets some Oscar noms.
I really liked her performance in this as well. I think the child actors did really good. Basically, everyone playing themselves and then a tethered version of themselves. They really did that spot on, going from a normal person to someone who a darker version of themselves. I think that was it was a really good job on their end, just getting that down. I did like Us. I did like Us a lot. It just definitely went down a much more different direction than I thought it would. And I think that was just a little off-putting for me at first, but the more you think about it, it definitely ended up making sense. It had those Peele twists that you were talking about, and it just kind of made me feel a little dumb that I didn't see the one at the end.
Yeah. He does this thing where it's like everything that you think previously is turned on its head. And, going to watch it for a second time, I did have a completely different experience, much like I did with Get Out. And so in that respect, it's incredible because not many people are able to do that.
So my last one isn't going to be a popular one, but I don't care. I liked it. Thank you. Mine is Escape Room. It came out very early in the year, so of course now it's just under everyone's radar. I'm pretty sure everyone's forgotten that it came out.
Life isn't a science experiment. You can't contain your world forever. Try doing one thing that scares you over break, okay?
Yeah. This serves as an entry voucher.
It came out in January.
It did. It came out, I'm pretty sure it was our first review of the year. So yeah, it came out very early, so now it's just kind of, no one remembers it, but I still do because I really liked it. Escape Room was really creative. It had the escape rooms that everyone was going through, and they were insane creative, and it was just really cool to watch. And it did have that suspense, and everything about it I really liked, all except for the end. So my recommendation is just watch it up until you're getting closer to the end, and then just turn it off and you have the movie.
Basically, once the people, I'm not going to say who, but once the people escape the escape room, that's when you can that's when you can cut it.
Shut it off.
That's when you can cut it right there, because up until that point, I think it's one of the more low budget horror films that has just impeccable pacing. It's a really well paced film.
Oh yeah, and it's really fun too. It's something that you can watch with friends and you're just kind of enjoying it.
Mm-hmm. And the cast does a really good job, and I'm forgetting everyone's name.
I don't know.
But they have a lot of chemistry between each other, and it's fun watching their interactions. And, in every film like this, you're going to have some, plot written in there where characters kind of start to, rift, between each other and start to like go after each other. And so there's a little bit of that here, and that's always fun too. It's just a film that like this year I feel like hasn't gotten enough credit. And granted, I didn't like the film nearly as much as Linda did. I wouldn't normally think about putting this on a list like this, but I'm glad you did, because it reminded me again the things that it did get right, it got right.
Not only was it a story about people trying to get through deadly escape rooms, it did have a story beneath itself where, like, as they're going along, they're finding out, like, secrets about each other, figuring out, like, why they're the ones that were chosen, because each person was specifically chosen to go through these escape rooms. So they're, also trying to figure out why them and things like that. And I don't know, maybe I liked it a lot because I worked at an escape room for like 2 seconds. So I was like, ooh, it applies to me. But it was fun. I liked it. It made me want to do an escape room but not die.
I would say it's definitely one that you probably haven't seen that we're recommending to you unless you really have made a point to go out to the theater for every horror movie this year. And so if you haven't watched it, I do highly recommend actually, just checking it out and giving it a chance. Because I was certain going into it was going to be a bad January film, and it wasn't that, except for the end. The end made me drop my original score by 2 points, I think.
We can just re-release it ourselves and just kind of cut off that.
Yeah, we'll recut it, yeah. So just to kind of wrap up, were there any other films that you think from this year that people should go out and see as far as horror goes, off the top of your head?
The ones that we didn't review that I ended up liking this year was Brightburn and Itsy Bitsy.
And I haven't seen either of those, so I'm glad you have perspective.
Those too.
The Perfection on Netflix came out this year. I almost debated putting that, just because that is a wild fucking movie. Like, I kid you not, Linda. That movie, have you seen it yet?
No.
You need to.
Oh
you need
gosh.
to. I will say, I didn't like it. Like, I didn't like that movie. But it's just so insane, and it does something where it switches the main character at 3 different points in the film, and it keeps twisting things. Like it's almost like Jordan Peele, it's almost like his filmmaking on drugs. Like, it's insanity. And it's kind of gay too. So I recommend The Perfection.
So it is a must-see.
It is a must-see. Those are just a few recommendations for you outside of, the best of list that we have. So I hope that you enjoyed this video. It's been really fun making these videos this year. We've seen some really great films. We've avoided the bad ones, I think, for once.
Luckily, yeah.
But we will be back in January to review The Grudge. So, so we'll do that in January. So just be on the lookout for that when it does release. I'm not sure. I think it releases at the beginning of January at some point.
The 4th.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah. See, I thought so. So we'll be back really, really soon. So don't go anywhere.